the channel where I explore everything yarny and beyond. I am Marci, knitting and sewing enthusiast, as well as burgeoning plant mom. I live in New York City with my husband Chris, and I love making all of the things. This is episode 5 of the Wool Meets World podcast, and it is brought to you by insane summer weather. It's over 91 degrees here in New York City. Just a few minutes ago, it was really sunny, really hot, and suddenly the storm clouds have rolled in, so forgive any lighting issues. It's quite dark in here. I've done the best that I could, and hopefully you don't hear any distracting noises in the background. That would be thunder if you can hear that. I have lots of works in progress to get into. I've just kind of been starting new projects and not really finishing any, which is fine, totally cool. And I have some books that I've been obsessing over and cool movies that I saw. So let's get right into that with works in progress. So work has just been kicking my butt for most of July, starting in June and now into August. And I just feel like I haven't really been able to focus on one thing. I've kind of been all over the place at work, and that has 100% translated to my knitting. So I have a whole bunch of works in progress that I started and really nothing finished, unfortunately. And it feels like I have not made any progress, but as I'm looking at the projects that I actually have made progress over the month. It just doesn't feel like that because it's not in any one thing, and I haven't been able to finish a single project, but that's fine. The first project that I'm working on is this hat. This is the Tollow Hat from by Jonathan Tallow. It is a paid-for hat pattern knit from the bottom up, and it features this really nice large folded over brim, so it is double-sided and it's going to be super warm, and then you transition from that into this really nice brioche stitch here. This has been kind of a mindless project for me. Certainly, you start off with a provisional cast on and you just keep knitting, stocking it in the round. And I think I have maybe about 6.5 inches here. I've folded that over and then tacked it down with knit two togethers all around so that I got this nice folded over brim. And then I started with the brioche. And when you're just doing brioche in the round, especially for a hat that has no increases and decreases, it's quite mindless. I've actually stopped right at the crown decreases because I do need a little bit of focus on that to count. So I will get to that when I can focus again. But it is really squishy. It is DK weight yarn. I think that's what the pattern calls for, DK weight yarn. And I am just loving it. I have, let me see, knit the brim here on size US 6 needles, which is 4 millimeters, and then transition to a size US 4 needle, 3.5 millimeters for the brioche as instructed in the pattern. And the yarn that I am using they are both colors from Woolberry Fiber Co., and I believe that they are in the same collection, which was the Coastal collection. I think it's come around maybe twice now from Bethany. But this is Berry DK. It's 100% superwash merino, and for 100 grams you get 231 yards. And this colorway Driftwood is this really nice variegated brown. And then the blue, which I should say is kind of blue-green because it does have some green variation. I'm so sorry that it's so dark in here, thanks to the stormy weather outside. So this is the colorway Coastal, and it is a variegated blue-green. It's got some really nice dark blues throughout, and then it just kind of goes in this really dreamy sort of coastally, that's not a word. It definitely reminds me of the coast. I think that the colorway name really speaks to what the yarn gives off. This is a hat pattern that I've wanted to do for a while now in these specific colors, so I needed something mindless, so I finally decided to just wind up the yarn and actually pick up the hat. And I love the way it's turning out. I am modifying it slightly where I'm going just a little bit longer on the body of the hat than called for in the pattern. I think only maybe like half an inch more. And now I am ready for the decreases. Let me show you my adorable little stitch stoppers. This is from Comma Craft Co. and they're little Converse sneakers with daisies on them, if the camera will focus on the daisies. I don't know. Can't see. But yeah, this is one of the mindless projects that I'm working on, and it will certainly be a finished object by the time I record my next podcast. And let me see, the second project that I've been working on, and I'm going to just set it up first in case you actually don't want to see it, has been the where am I going with this? The Stephen West Surprise Sock-Along. I could not think of what the thing was called. The Stephen West Surprise Sock-Along. And these are the color Popportunity socks for 2024. The make-along started, I believe, at the beginning of July. I think the first clue came out the first Tuesday in July, and we've had one clue ever since. This was my first time doing Stephen's sock along, and I completely forgot that it was coming. I saw clue 1 that Tuesday and remembered that I hadn't even picked out any yarns for it, so I kind of started clue 1 yet late, and then my inability to focus on anything, I just never advanced past clue 1. We are now at the end of July, so all the clues are out. You can see all the different projects on Ravelry and on Instagram of these color Popportunity socks. And they are so fun. I'm really looking forward to finishing these socks off when I have a little bit more time to focus. It's something I'm just going to be kind of working on as I go here, and it's way too hot to wear wool socks anyway, so that's totally fine. I have plenty of time to finish them, so I'm going to show them now if you want to look away for a minute if you haven't seen clue 1 or don't want to know. And I'm knitting them 2 at a time here, so I have them on 2 separate needles using size 1s, 2.5 millimeters. And yeah, this is clue 1. This is actually the leg, and you just go like that to get the leg into a cylinder, and the socks are really fun. Seeing them like completely done now in other people's projects, I am so glad that I picked kind of the color palette I went through. I kind of just grabbed in a rush some solid colors that popped based on the name of the pattern, Color Popportunity, and I love the color choices that I made. I cannot wait to see these finished in the full sock. And yeah, so I'm gonna put these down so you can look again if you didn't want to see them. And I'm just gonna talk about the colors that I have here. So these are all scraps that I had in my scrap bin from other projects. I think most of these were socks that I did. This one was a shawl, but these are mostly scraps. Ooh, God. Sock scraps. And so the main color that I'm using is this navy blue, and this is the Walk collection, and it's their Cottage Merino base, which I think is 100% merino. It's actually very tacky. The yarn is very sticky, so like let's say you were to drop a stitch, it would not move because it just sticks to itself. The colorway is marine, and it is this really nice blue, so I chose that for the main color, and then I chose these colors. Let me put them in order here. So I chose these colors to really pop against that blue, and this light blue here is from Cozy Colorworks. It is their fingering weight base, and it is the colorway Spruce. It looks rather blue, especially next to a blue, but I knit it up in a shawl and I put it with a teal, and so you can see that it has just like a little hint of blue in it, or of green in it rather, so it's like a greeny blue. Then the next color is this golden yellow, which is from 29 Bridges Studio in their go-to sock base, and the colorway I think is called Benoffee or Benoff. I don't have the label anymore, and I'm not sure if I wrote it right in Ravelry, but that is this like really gold yellow. And then The pink was actually from a sock set that I got from the Kinetic Knitter in the Twisted Sock base. And this colorway was called Strawberry Shortcake. And it is a nice sort of like variegated pink. And it is kind of the only variegated color that I have in this. So I am going to be working on this again soon. Stephen West's patterns are a little bit not like, you know, not mindless friendly. So again, I just haven't been able to focus on anything. So when I can, I will be doing so. And my yarn is all tangled up, which is fine. I don't need to know about that. Okay, so the next project that I am working on, I'm kind of stalled on. I need to do some math with this. And so we'll see if I can get this done by the end of the summer. It is a summer top, so I really hope that I do. Otherwise, I have to wait a whole year to wear it, and that'll be sad. But I mean, you could wear this for fall as a layering piece as well. But this is the twist loop top, and the pattern is by Other Loops. It is also a paid for pattern, and it is a ribbed tank top knit from the top down. The front and back is knit flat, and then once you get to the underarms, that is when you knit in the round and just keep going down the body in the round while continuing the rib. It is completely ribbed on the front and back, and then the front features this really nice little cable detail, which I've started here, and I am loving the way it turned out, except that the front or the underarm decreases took me way too long to knit. So my armhole depth is ending up way too long. I usually like something around like 8.5, 9 for my armhole depth. This I think ended up being about 10.5 inches. So it's just gonna be way too much. I'm not a person that likes to show side boob. If I was, I would leave this the way it is, but I am not, so I need to redo the front and figure out how to, or I need to figure out how much faster I need to increase. So I've stopped here on the back at the first set of increases, and now I just need to do some math to kind of figure out like how I should be working the armhole depth on this, and I'm gonna have to rip out part of the front and then redo that, which, you know, I don't know. I think that's worth it to have something that you know is gonna fit you. Like, I don't know, I'm just not comfortable with a super long armhole depth, and then I'm not gonna wear the top. So I would rather re-knit this and rip it out, re-knit it, and, you know, kind of troubleshoot a little bit than not wear the top at all. And I just want to point out my really fun stitch marker. Let's see if we can see that. Yep. And this is a little ice cream sandwich, a cookie ice cream sandwich stitch marker, and it is from Simply Serving, and it's so fun. I thought it just matched kind of the summer vibe that I am going for in this top. And the yarn I'm using is, again, Woolberry Fiber Co. I have an extensive Woolberry collection here, and I am obsessed. This might be like my favorite base from Woolberry. This is Berry Linen, and I think it's only offered in the summer, and it is 50% alpaca, 25% linen, and 25% silk. And it is in the colorway Oats, which is this really nice, hopefully you can see it fine in this terrible lighting here. It is this really nice, like kind of off-white, beigey color, and for 100 grams you get 438 yards. And it is so next to skin soft. It's got a gorgeous little halo to it. Let me see. I think the best place to see the halo is like around the collar. You can maybe see the halo, I'm not sure. It's got a nice little halo to it, and what I like about the alpaca is I find that the fibers don't kind of like fly off as much as, let's say, mohair will. Like when you're holding mohair with merino in a project, I find that those fibers kind of tickle my nose, they fly off a lot, they get like all over like a blanket that I'm working with. I have not found that with this alpaca blend. It has not kind of flown off and hit me in the nose, which I really like. The twist loops top, there's more about the pattern in my last podcast episode, but it is supposed to be worn with negative ease. Unfortunately, there are only 6 sizes. It goes from a 31-inch bust to a 47-inch bust. That's like the finished measurements of the top. So it is not for everyone, unfortunately. But if that would work for you, it is a nice sort of pattern to be working with. And the last top that I have, or the last project that I have been working with, is this. I've got stuff all over the place here. Is this sweater. This is the Home Sweater V-neck and is by Kadri. And it is a top-down, oversized V-neck. It doesn't look like a V-neck because I have the neckline on a cable needle right now, but it is a top-down V-neck. It's oversized drop shoulder, and it is knit with DK weight yarn. I am using a boucle yarn from Explorer Knits. I'll talk about that in a second. It's a paid-for pattern, and there's plenty of ease built in. I think the finished measurements on the bust go from like a 41-inch bust to like a 67-inch bust. So it's meant for DK weight yarn. The pattern calls for a size US 8 needle, a 5mm needle, but I've never liked the way my DK weight fabric comes out with such a large gauge. So I have taken my needle size down to a US 6, which is 4mm. And yeah, this is the fabric I'm getting. I am loving the way the sweater is turning out. And the yarn, as I said, is from Explorer Knits and Fibers. And it is the boucle, which is a DK weight base. This is the colorway To the Stars Who Listen. And it is a kind of peacock, kind of green looking colorway. It's more green in the light, but you can definitely in certain lights see that it has some blue in it, and it's not like a true green. And I like the way it's coming out. Boucle is not my favorite to work with. This is my first time doing it. I knew that it would be slightly difficult, but it's causing me some problems. So while I love the texture, I love the kind of next skin softness of it, I probably won't be making too many sweaters in boucle yarn because it's just rather difficult. It's very difficult to read your stitches. It was very difficult for me to count my stitches when I was working with my washed swatch because the bloom just got even bloomier and I really couldn't tell if I was counting a whole stitch or a half stitch. And you can even see here along the neckline that you can barely see the ribbing. You can tell that it's definitely different from the stockinette below, but it's quite hard to read your stitches. So it's been causing a little problems, and this is my actually second time doing the neckline. I had to rip it back because I did a very nice neckline and then tried to do a sewn tubular bind off like it's called for in the pattern, and the ply of this is just so sticky and it's all like bunched up. You can see this is not smooth. It's very tacky. It's very bunchy. So when you're pulling it through small stitches, I think I'm using a size US 2 for the ribbing. So when you're pulling it through such small stitches, it's very difficult to tug through. It gets stuck a lot, and I finally ended up not really breaking the strand, but like almost breaking it, and the ply just came apart in my hands. So I had to rip back that bind off, and in doing so, it's just quite hard to see your stitches, so I could not get all the stitches on the needle nicely. So I just had to rip out the whole collar and start again. So I'm just a few rows into it, but it didn't take me that long to actually do the collar. So it'll be back to where it needs to go. And beyond the collar, I've done all the increases along the shoulder, and I've connected at the underarm. So once I finish the collar, I am just going to keep going. It is now pouring outside. I am just going to keep going along that and hopefully get this done. I'm not too much in a rush to do this this is going to be a fall sweater, and fall is still a long ways away here in New York. It stays pretty hot through the month of September, or at least halfway through the month of September, so I have some time to get that one done. So that is my works in progress. Let's quickly talk about some August plans. So I mentioned that I want to do a coordinating shawl that will go with my tallow hat. This brown here is what I am going to coordinate with. I have lots of blue accessories, including shawls and gloves and stuff like that, so I think this will match with any of those that I have. But what I don't have is something brown. I have a brown coat that I think this will go really nice with as well. So I had an idea to do another one of Jonathan Tallow's patterns, which is the Brioche Adventure Shawl. And it's, I don't know, I think it's like less of a shawl and more of like a very long wrap. And it uses mini skeins, I believe. Does it use mini skeins? I think it does. Yeah, it uses mini skeins, I think. And so I had the idea to use a advent set that I got last year from Coast to Coast Fiber Co. And this is it. And it was her, I think, Fantasy Coffee House collection is what she called it. And it was like 24 days or something of all different browns, starting with like a nice light cream, and then going all the way to this really dark brown, 20 days worth. And it also had a full skein to go along with it, but I'm going to use that probably for something else. And I think that this brown shawl is just going to go so nicely with the brown from Woolberry Fiber Co. in this hat. There's definitely tones of it right here in the middle, and this is like a multi sort of faceted brown, and this will be a multi-faceted brown shawl. So I'm really excited to get started on this. I didn't really know what to use this with for last year. I don't really typically knit right away with my Advent mini skeins. I'm too much of a control freak for that. I kind of want to know how it's gonna turn out. I mean, I did know that this was gonna be a fade, but I don't know, I kind of like to match my pattern with the yarn, and when you're just unwrapping it and knitting with it straight away, unless it's like in a blanket or something, that's too much of a chance for me. So I kind of generally take my time and think about what I want to make with my mini skein sets. So I do want to get this set kind of used up before I get my next mini skein sets for Advent this year. So I think this is just going to be a really nice kind of fall color palette. And like I said, I have plenty of like gloves and other hats and stuff in blue that will go nicely with my brown jacket and will make a really nice sort of like color palette for this. And that is kind of my only concrete plan. I haven't really been able to plan anything else out. I've actually had this like shawl hat pattern figured out for a while now, certainly like since earlier this year, and I'm just getting around to making it. I do need to do another sweater. I am going to Rhinebeck this year, and I always love to have a new sweater for the Saturday and Sunday of Rhinebeck. I'll be up there on Friday as well, so I might need another sweater if I can manage it, but there's nothing really that's like calling out to me. I don't know, someone post down below, let me know what sweaters you're working on. I could really use some feedback, get some ideas for my next sweater. Ooh, the rain has stopped. I'm noticing it's getting nice and bright in here again. I wish it had been bright when I was showing you my other projects before, but that's fine. We will move on to Media Matters. Were actually at the movies when I realized Stephen West's Color Popportunity sock along was happening, and it was a really fun night. I remember it was the first like Tuesday in July, and we had such a blast. My husband and I tried to go to a drive-in movie at least like once or twice a summer, and we were up at the Warwick Drive-In. It's about like 2.5 hours northwest of New York City in Warwick, New York. And it's such a fun time. We try to get there early as soon as they open so that we can get kind of like the perfect spot in the middle for our car, and you can either hang out in your car or you can hang out in chairs like outside your car, and if you have like a portable radio or something, and it's just like such a nice way to enjoy like a good summer evening. You watch the sunset before it gets real dark for the movie, and it's just a really nice time. So I was there knitting for a while we watched the sunset, and I was planning out my socks. I was planning out the colors for them, of course. And then we saw a really cool movie. We saw A Quiet Place Day One, which is the third installment of the A Quiet Place series from actor, writer, director John Krasinski. And so this one was the third one. It does not follow the same family from the first two movies. These are two very new characters. You actually do get to see some characters from the second one, but the main focus, or the main actors in this, are Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn, and the story kind of follows them. And when you sort of boil it down, it follows them through like their like journey to get like the perfect slice of pizza in New York City when you boil that down. And it was just great. I really enjoyed it. It's not my favorite of the three movies for A Quiet Place. Like by the time you get to the third one, you get the formula down a little bit. You know, you have to be quiet. If you make a noise, there's a jump scare and the monsters come after you. So that was kind of repeated again and again throughout the movie. And it's, you know, it wasn't the freshest take on horror like the first and second one were, but I really enjoyed it. I think the CGI and the acting were the two best parts. Definitely worth the price of admission or checking it out. Seeing New York City and having like these like alien like monsters live in it is like a trip. It's such a trip. And then to see these two characters like walking around like a dead silent New York is bizarre. Like if you've ever been here or having lived here my whole life, it's just something that really was crazy. Like it's never quiet, even at night, and like seeing, you know, so you can hear a pin drop in these scenes, and it was just wild. It was great. I really enjoyed that part. But Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn, their acting, like their chemistry together was incredible. There's this one, you know, beautiful scene at the end that shows how far they've come. They meet as strangers essentially, and then, you know, by the end they're saving each other, and it's wonderful. The acting was really one of my favorite parts. So it's definitely worth checking out. It's not as good as the first two, but ultimately I really did enjoy it. So that is kind of the movie that I've seen, and I've finished 3 books in the month of July. The first one I actually read from a physical copy, and it's Same Time Next Summer by Annabel Monaghan, and it was just a very simple contemporary romance. I enjoyed it. It follows a character who's about to lose her job, so she gets, you know, basically a week away and goes back to her family's like summer home, which I guess she hasn't visited since she was a teenager. And it was nice. It was a very cute romance. It kept me going, very mild, tame if that's what you're into. And what I really enjoyed about it was it really captured sort of the essence of summer nostalgia. Like if you've ever been to a vacation home repeatedly throughout your childhood or went to a camp or something like that, I just thought that it really brought home that sense of returning to a place that you really loved as a kid and seeing how you've changed, how you've grown. Yeah, it follows her as she returns to her home, and then it is a romance, so she is about to get married but ends up, you know, running into like a teenage boyfriend that she had, and it just goes from there, and it's nice. It was entertaining, and yeah, I would definitely read more from this author. I just loved that sort of feeling of nostalgia. But the series that I really want to talk about that I am now obsessed with is the Empyrean series from Rebecca Yarros. The first one is called Fourth Wing, the second one is Iron Flame, and the third one, Onyx Storm, is coming out in January. And if I had a button that would allow me to fast forward time, I would press it in a heartbeat, because I need to get my hands on this third book, and I have to wait all the way until January to get there, and I'm losing my mind over that. The series is not something that I would have picked up myself. The first book, Fourth Wing, follows a female protagonist as she goes through a war college for dragon riders. It was something that was nominated by my book club for this month's read. And wow, I did not expect to like it. I mean, I've watched Game of Thrones, but I have not continued on to House of the Dragon. Comment below if you think House of the Dragon is worth checking out. I don't know anybody that's watched it, but yeah, Fourth Wing. I would have not picked this up. I don't know, I'm more of like a paranormal, like witch, vampire, zombie kind of person. Not really a fantasy reader, but I'm so glad that I checked this out. A couple things that I like about it. First, it is romantasy. So there's plenty of romance, and trigger warning, there is a lot of spiciness to it. Do not listen to it out loud on audiobook if you have a young child near you. And so I like that aspect of it. I think it hit me at the right time. I just find, I don't know, I think it's perfect for summer. I find something about hot, sticky weather just like goes hand in hand with like a good like fling, you know, like good spicy fling. The romance part was right up my alley, but I think the thing that really captured my imagination was the protagonist. I think it's such an empowering look at female power and, you know, knowing who you are and getting over your fear and self-doubt and any insecurities that you have about yourself. It follows Violet Sorrengail as the protagonist, and she actually has something called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. That means it affects like the connective body or the connective tissue of your body. So her joints are quite fragile. She's always like popping them out, spraining them, or, you know, tearing her ligaments and stuff like that. So she is considered weak in this, you know, military society that's very focused on physical strength and like fighting prowess and stuff like that, but she's also incredibly intelligent, having like trained to be an academic her whole entire life before heading into this aspect of the war college. So, and she's used to pain and stuff like that, and it's just her resilience and determination that speak to me so much. She has sort of this like trademark move where she, you know, lifts her chin when she's caught, or, you know, when she's outmatched, and, you know, she kind of stubbornly lifts her chin and like continues on with it. And I just found that, I don't know, I just found that really, it resonated with me. It's sort of a testament to, you know, the fact that like true power comes from within. Yeah, it's like a must read, and let me tell you, Rebecca Yarros knows how to plot a story. The woman knows how to leave you on a cliffhanger. The first one has a cliffhanger that I was like, huh? Wait, how did that happen? I had to move on to Iron Flame, and then the cliffhanger at Iron Flame is just devastating. It's devastating. I really need to read this next book, and I have to wait like 5-6 months for it. So I'm not okay. I'm not okay after reading these books. Let me know down below if you don't like these books. I love them. So fun. So, I am done right in time for the rain to stop. It's now getting sunny. It's getting hot in here again. So I think this is a good place to stop so I can go turn on my air conditioning, and I will see you on the next one.